Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of New It 2.
Welcome.
This is Kaylin and Ashley here, coming to you from the Oklahoma City store. We thought that this week it might be nice to show you guys how we can go about digitizing something like a logo.
Okay.
But sometimes, and I don't know those of you that have ever digitized for people before, the stuff you get from the people that ask for it is not maybe very easy to digitize as far as the format it comes to you in. You know, our Floriani has all these beautiful digitizing wizards for all kinds of files. But sometimes what you get is like a Sharpie drawing from somebody of their logo or a bad picture or something like that. So what I have done is I have drawn my name.
You made your own logo.
On a piece of paper, made my own little logo here. And then I took a picture of it with my phone and I sent it to the computer. And so what you're gonna have is a photograph, and let me show it to you, I've got it over here, with all these shadows on it.
From taking your picture?
Right. And sometimes people are gonna send you this and be like, can't you just digitize it real fast? Okay. And so the answer is sort of, but maybe not with our wizard. So I thought we could go over today how we would approach this type of image for digitizing.
Perfect.
So I have over here just a blank screen. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my image as a backdrop. Okay. Which is to say, it's just sitting behind. It's not going to try to auto-generate stitches or anything like that. It is truly sitting behind the stitches so that I can use it as a reference to trace, basically.
Got it.
So I'm going to click my backdrop tool, and I have two options. I have backdrop, or on mine, because I also have their quilting software, I have magic block to make a quilt block.
Got it.
I just obviously want a backdrop here, so I'm going to click that. It's going to take me just to my my computer. Floriani comes with a bunch of pre-created images that you can use for practice for backdrops. So obviously feel free to do those. As you can see though, these are nice clean images that you can also use some of the magic wands and auto digitizing features with as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over to my desktop and I just saved this. I called it Kaylin logo. Okay. You know, whatever. Okay, so it's going to bring it up as a backdrop, and it's going to automatically zoom out so that you can see the entire image. One thing I will caution you, and I learned this the hard way, is that depending on the resolution of the image, it might be huge, like far larger than the actual item that you took a photograph of. This one's not terrible. If you look across here, this is my inches. I don't know if you can see how small they are. This is about 22 inches across. So if I were to try to digitize this, I would have roughly a 20-inch item.
That's huge.
Which is obviously too large even for our fantastically huge hoops. Not that I couldn't split it, but I had one the other day that the resolution of the image was such that when it brought it up, it was, I'm not kidding, 600 inches across.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't notice, probably because the grid was so small that I didn't even notice it. Like it was too small to see. And so when I tried to convert it to satin stitches, the program crashed because it was trying to create a 600-inch wide design. So pay attention to that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to my little corners and I'm just going to shrink down the image. There's always more than one way to do this. I could come over here to my properties, type in the new size, but just as easy. And the nice thing is, if you watch while I shrink it, it stays centered.
That's so handy.
Okay, which is actually really nice. And then I can just come up to my zoom and say to fit to bring up the image to a bigger size. So now we've got about an 8-inch wide image here. I can obviously change it later to whatever size I need, but this is more workable to me. And it's not likely, I don't think the 20-inch one would have actually stretched the program the way the 600-inch one did, but I like to work as close to the size I think I'm going to probably end up with as possible.
Got it.
Okay, so what we have then is just, like I say, an image that if I were to try my wizards and my magic wands, all this stuff, it can't see past that. It's just a flat image. We understand that that's not part of the logo.
Yeah.
Right? But an auto digitizer doesn't. It's going to digitize all of that as well. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come over here to my zoom. I'm going to take this one letter at a time. I'm going to take my zoom tool with my magnifying glass. You can also just go over here, but this way I can actually just tell it exactly where I want it to zoom to.
Got it.
I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to drag a box. So I'm holding my mouse key, if you can tilt down there. I'm holding my left click while I drag a box, and when I release, it will zoom right to the spot that I dragged a box around.
Got it.
Super handy dandy. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm basically going to trace this. There's a couple reasons why I want to trace this instead of using the magnifying glass, not the magnifying glass, sorry, the wizards, which will detect color areas. One is what we've already said, which is that
it'll try to digitize
to digitize the shadows and everything. But the other thing is, in something like this, I used a Sharpie. Sharpies don't necessarily make super crisp lines. And see my little like flubs here where I went outside the lines, right?
Yeah.
Or here, I was trying to get the moon the right shape and I couldn't quite get it, and I eventually picked what I wanted.
Yeah.
I can make with my pencil intelligent choices about what I want the line to actually do.
That makes sense.
So I'm going to come over here to my pencil.
Okay.
And when I do that, the icon just to the left of it will also light up, because you actually have a few different styles of pencil. You just have point to point. It's just going to draw a line.
Okay.
You have the pen, which will draw segmented lines that are straight lines that connect at points.
Okay.
You can do Bezier, where it will create lines that instead of being hard angled points, you can force the points to curve between them.
Okay.
Right? To create softer lines.
Okay.
And then I actually haven't played with the arcs. I think these just create preset like arcs, curves, things like that.
Got it.
My preference, because I've done this a lot, is Bezier.
Got it.
Because what you can do with Bezier, and I'll try to show you here, is if I click a line here and another point, okay, right now it's just a straight line. If I click down here, it'll just make another angled line, which my initial just pen would do as well. But instead, if I can hit backspace if I'm not happy with the most recent segment.
Okay.
If I click and I drag, now it gives me my Bezier lines, which are these two nodes that stretch and rotate. The further I stretch them, the sharper the curve. Where I rotate them determines the direction of the curve.
Okay, that's super cool.
Yeah. And so what's going to happen, and let me get all the way out of this, is that every time I click a point, I can set the curve. So as you practice drawing, you can do whatever you want to make the shape suit the line that you're tracing.
Got it.
That being said, this takes a little bit of practice just to get familiar with, to get comfortable with. And so another option you've got is just to leave it on line, right? We'll re-click line here. And so I can just draw. For as long as I click, I can just draw.
Okay.
Okay? And then it auto puts points that I can then come back later and adjust. Okay? Or we'll delete that. Give me 1 second here. Go to my select tool to go back to where I can select an item. Hit delete. It'll go away.
Beautiful.
Go back to I can go to line where it's point to point to point to point. This is where I suggest people start.
Okay.
Because the thing is, if I want something to be sort of a curve, I can do as many little points as I want. And when you zoom out, you'll never know that they're not just a gentle slope.
Got it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So you've got a lot of different ways that you can use this tool. And let's delete that too. So then, let me bring back my backdrop. And word to the wise, what I did was a keystroke to hide it. You hold Alt and then S, it hides your backdrop. And then you can just bring it right back with the same keystroke.
Well, that's nice.
It's nice to check your work sometimes to not see what's behind it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my pencil. I'm going to leave it on the line tool. And I'm just going to start clicking around my letter. I've talked about this in other Knew It 2s in the past whenever we were creating line art, as opposed to what we're doing now, which is going to be like a satin or a filled effect. And I'm just going to go all the way around. And I'm going to go all the way around this K until I get to the end.
Okay.
And I'm Martha Stewart. I have the finished one on the other side here.
Beautiful.
When I get to the end, though, just so you guys can see, we'll pretend it was just that shape. I'm going to do a right click, and it will complete the shape. It will finish it. It's I'm done now, right? Now, right now, that's an open shape. So let's come back over to the one that I've already traced everything. If you look here, I've already got all my traces, okay? And if I zoom in here, you're gonna see I've got all these breaks where I didn't close the image.
Got it.
Okay. So what I need to do, obviously, is close the image. And there's a number of ways to do that, but the way that I like best is that I'm gonna come over here. We have select, we have lasso where you can draw a shape around it, or we have shape.
Got it.
Shape is where you edit your outlines.
Okay.
Amongst other things in the shape or the stitching if it's already stitches. So I'm going to click shape, and what you're going to find is that the one you have selected is going to turn purple.
Okay.
Let me zoom out so you can see the whole letter. And it's going to have all your nodes indicated with blue squares.
Got it.
I can see this is empty. I have a couple of options. I could drag it here, but it's always going to have a microscopic amount of space between them.
Okay.
Or what I can do is I'm going to hover over it. You can always tell on Floriani if you've hovered over it because your mouse cursor will change. See how there was no dot under my cursor, and then once I hit that node, that little dot appears. You want to like get real close to it for them so that they can kind of. So I'm not on the node. I'm on the node. Not on the node. On the node. Not on the node. On the node. All right. So what I'm going to do is while I'm hovered on the node is I'm going to right click. Okay. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say close line.
Beautiful.
And just like that, it closes for me.
Okay, this is too easy.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through them all. I'm not going to make you guys sit with me through all of that, but I will go through them all and I will close all the lines and it'll just make a straight connection between the two closest points like that.
Perfect.
Okay. And so what we'll do then, and we'll just start with the K here, and I'll show you, we're going to show you the K, and then I'm going to show you the A, because what do you do when there's two lines, right?
Okay.
Is a little bit different than when something is just a single shape.
Got it.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my select tool again. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click my K. And then my preference, and again, there's 1,000 different ways to do things on Floriani. There's no necessarily right way or wrong way. I like to come down here to my auto satin. So if you see down here on my, what does DJ call them? One click wonders?
Yes.
All of these down here that he has laboriously helped program. This is my auto satin. I have other ways to do a satin stitch. The reason I want to use auto satin is what I have here is an unusual shape. Okay. And if you're like me, you don't want it to just be a bunch of perfectly vertical or horizontal satin stitches.
Yeah.
You want the satin stitches to follow that curve. Okay.
Yeah.
What this is going to do is it's going to start the work for me on doing that. Now, sometimes with auto satin, I'm happy with the end result and I don't change anything at all, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to change it if you do decide that something needs to be adjusted about it. So I'm going to click auto satin. This is when on the 600-inch one, it froze.
It died.
Yeah. And I hadn't saved my work. I was a sad panda.
No.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
Let's save.
save.
How'd you do that?
Well, I didn't do it apparently. I thought it was that keystroke. Maybe not. I'm going to come here to File, Save. I'm going to save this as a WAF file until I'm done with it.
Okay.
Because that's going to maintain the most...
Detail?
Not detail, most editability.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. I'm saving it to my desktop because that's, for me, the easiest place to find something. If that's not it for you, great. Save it elsewhere. Okay. So what we have here is the K. I have my highlight color set to this kind of neon blue because I'm not likely to use it in a stitch out, and so I'll know that it's something that's being highlighted.
That makes sense.
When I click away, it changes back to the stitch color that I have selected.
Okay.
I'm going to put it in 3D because I find that easier to understand what the satin stitches are doing than when it's just in the artwork version.
Yeah.
To do that, I just have my 3D icon right here.
Okay.
You click it, it'll highlight, everything looks like real stitching. Okay.
Got it.
Now note here we are at 200%.
Okay.
So this is much larger than it would actually be.
Yeah.
But what I want to see here is where my break lines are and the angle of my satin stitches. So if I want to alter this, I'm actually fairly happy with this one. But if I want to alter this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. And I'm going to come back over here to my shape tool. And what it's going to do is now I'm going to have all those nodes that I had before and the pink lines, but now I also have all these other things indicating the stitch information.
Got it.
So my red dot here, let me zoom in for you guys, is my stop point. My guess is the start point is hiding underneath it. The yellow lines going across here, they're called inclination lines, which is just a fancy way of saying the angle of the stitch, the direction of the stitch.
Got it.
And then my, my orange lines here, if you can tell that they're orange, are my split lines.
Okay.
You see here how there's a split and a split. Okay, so sometimes I have found that the split lines don't go where I think they ought to go. And so I need to add them. So let's say that maybe, let's pretend this split line wasn't here. I could insert one there.
Okay.
And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hover over the purple line and I'm going to right click.
Okay.
Now you can see here we have a bunch of options. Sometimes different things will sit on top of each other in a way that makes it hard to get to. So I can change my editing to only the outlines, only the inclinations, only the entry exit, things like that.
Okay.
But I've also got things like add a point, which would add one of those blue nodes to alter the shape.
Got it.
I can, of course, delete points if I was hovered over a point. I can add inclinations, which are those angle lines telling my satin stitches what direction to go.
Uh-huh.
Or I can add a split line.
Okay.
And then my properties. So if I add a split line, and I'm just going to show you guys one that maybe I wouldn't, oh, too much. Maybe I wouldn't actually want, but we're going to show you. I can just click anywhere that I want the split line to start. And then drag it. Sorry, I'm having trouble using my mouse with the machine at this angle. There we go. And I can drag it to the far edges.
Okay.
You can see how it's tracking along the edge. Now it's not going to connect to another split line. Do you see the split line right here? It's hopping across it. It can't connect to another split line. But I can otherwise kind of do whatever I want with it.
Okay.
And so once I release it, it's not going to change until I hit enter. But you see how there it automatically alters where the split line is. So even if I wanted something as simple as changing where the split line is,
it doesn't change till you hit enter.
It doesn't change till you hit enter. And then if I don't like that one, because I don't actually think that's one I would want in real life, I can hover over the node of the split line and I can delete that split line. And then again, you hit enter to do that.
Okay.
And then if I'm unhappy with any of my inclination lines, sometimes they get a little wonky because it is a program doing its best and we're people and we can see things that it maybe doesn't realize are not logical. Like see how these two come to a point? That might actually make your satin stitch come into funny like V shapes.
Okay.
So you have options. You can move them, just adjust one down, maybe adjust one up if you need to, hit enter, let it adjust the satin stitch, or you can delete them. Just by hovering over the node of the one you want to delete inclination, hit enter, it'll adjust accordingly. Now, what I can see here from the fact that my satin is split is that this image is large enough that it has to split the satin for it to stitch all the way across.
Got it.
Which is fine if you're okay with that. If you are not, you can always change the style of split, or you can shrink down the entire design to prevent a split. It will, if you shrink it down where it doesn't need to split, it will automatically remove the split unless you tell it that it must split, which is over here in your quality control. You've got your automatic clip. I've got my split options right here. Middle split, absolute, where you can just tell it where to split, percentage, so the amount between, or random, which is what I have it on. That's personal preference on what you're going to want here, or what, if you are doing this for somebody else, what they want. Just to show you a middle split where it has to, it keeps it more even versus random. I tend to think random is more forgiving, but again, that's just personal preference. Okay, so I'm going to play with this one just a little bit more, and then we'll come right back.
Sounds good.
Okay, I fiddled around with the K a little bit more, got happy with it, and decided I wanted to show you guys how we approach when an item has two shapes in order to create the item. Because if I were to leave it right here, and let me go ahead and close my lines real quick, and I'll do it on this one as well. If I were to turn this outer line A, into a satin stitch, it would go completely across the center.
That makes sense.
Obviously, we don't want that.
It wouldn't look like an A.
Right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select one of them. It doesn't matter which one, in what order, whatever. And I'm going to hold the Shift key.
Okay.
And I'm going to select the other one.
Okay.
And what I'm going to find... Well, hold on. Was it the Control key? Bear with me, ladies. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. The Control key. Apologies, everybody.
Control, not Shift. Got it.
Yes. And what it's going to do is it's going to select both of those shapes.
Okay.
I know it's kind of hard to tell because this one is just inside. But if you look over here at my sequence view, I can see when I scroll that the A shape is highlighted and that little circle is highlighted.
Got it.
So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to right click over the shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say combine, not group. Group would just make them travel together. It doesn't actually make them work as one unit of artwork.
That makes sense. Okay.
So I need combine. And what I'm going to see now, if I come over back here to my sequence view, is that now the A has its little circle inside of it. It is a single step now.
I see.
Okay. So there's the trick of the day, right?
I like it.
So now with this selected, I'm going to do the same thing I did a moment ago, and I'm going to do my auto satin, and I'm going to let it load that. And I am not as happy with this one as I was with the other one.
Okay.
But in a way, actually, to me, for our purposes here, I'm actually okay with that.
That works.
Because of what I want is to show you guys kind of how we do this. So I can see part of the problem here is not only do I have split lines in places that aren't logical to our brain, but I have overlapping inclination lines that are making some of those satin stitches maybe not as clean as we would like. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to a more logical place, and I'm going to delete this one. So if you notice here, I am going over the nodes that they are on the ends of them to move them, not clicking on the line in the center here.
Got it.
So nodes, not just the line.
Got it.
Okay, I'm going to hit enter and see how that helps. Already that looks better than it did. Now if I want to adjust this shape to make it even more logical, I can certainly do that. I'm going to uncross my lines here. Now one thing that I do have to make a decision on is the satin stitch across here.
Okay.
Now one thing we're going to try, and this is where being willing to play is important.
Okay.
I'm going to try, deleting the split line right there. And I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to see what happens. And it goes a little bonkers, but I'm actually more on board with it than I was before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click anywhere over the shape and I'm going to say add inclinations. And I'm going to start clicking in the areas that I think the satin stitch is not quite going in the direction that I want it to go.
Got it.
And basically what I'm doing here is I'm forcing it to send the satin stitch in a direction that is more logical. It does not know that this is an A.
No.
It's a machine, right? I know AI has become very convincing, but it is still just a machine. If AI is listening to me, I don't mean it. Don't kill me in the uprising. All right, here we go.
The robots. Ah, looky there.
Okay, so see how that forced it? Now it needed to do a split satin to accommodate that. So if I don't like that, again, I can resize the design. I can alter the type of split satin, whatever I need to do for that, right? But that gives it a more logical appearance, to my mind. You're welcome to disagree. For it to be the letter that we are trying to create here.
Oh, I like that better.
Yeah, I do too. Now, one thing you'll notice is I don't have an inclination line over here.
Because it can't connect to the split.
It can't connect to the split.
Got it.
You are exactly right. But I can get close enough on either side that you can see that satin still travels logically there. Okay.
I've learned something already.
That is right. That is right. Okay. So at that point, I'm pleased with that. And if I go back to 100% here, where we can see the size it's actually going to be at, you know, that works for me. And again, if it doesn't, right now this is a fairly large design. I mean, all things considered for a name or a logo, it's about 6 inches across.
Yeah.
So I can always alter that.
Yeah.
But if what somebody wants is a chunky letter like this, one thing you might say is then it will have to split the satin. Now, if you don't want it that way, you can change it to a fill and then approach it differently. Although one thing I'll tell people is with the 3D on, it looks really lofted. Like those stitches are going to sit up like this. It has a high sheen to the pretend 3D here.
Yeah. It won't be as noticeable.
It will not be nearly as noticeable on a finished project.
Got it.
So that is how I would approach just the remainder of this. I would fuse together the little circle in my E and then with the outer edge of the E, and I would just continue in that way. I think for my preference, I would do maybe bean stitches or satin stitches for my little stars and moon.
Those would be cute. I
would not do those as fills, but again, that's just my preference. That's not a requirement. And that is how I would approach something that, let's bring back here our original artwork here. That I would do to digitize an otherwise perhaps tricky logo. So really with just a few tools, you can take a perhaps a poor quality image, we'll say,
Uh-huh.
and turned it into a really nice stitch out. So we hope you guys have enjoyed this lesson on Floriani. Hopefully I'll have this finished and stitched out for you guys next
sticking
week
my
just
fingers
to
in the
show
camera.
you. It's all right. Oh, we have to give something away.
We do.
Oh.
I
Well,
like
okay.
giveaways.
Let's go find something to give away and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so dashed around the store and I
Yes.
thought, what would somebody need that was putting logos onto something, right? You've digitized a logo and now you want to put it on stuff. And maybe you're putting it on a lot of different colors of things or a really high contrast. And so we thought color keep topping.
Love that.
Which, if you're not familiar with it, this is a sort of a tearaway product from Floriani that you lay between the fabric that you're stitching on and the stitching.
Okay.
Sort of like
Like a
a
wet and done
topper
Yeah.
for towels to hold down the pile.
Uh-huh.
This is to keep the color
Okay.
as kind of pure and bold and bright as possible.
Got it.
And so what they've done is they've created this in a number of colors here. This is not even all of them, but to my mind, these are the most useful. They also have yellow and pink. But anytime I'm doing a darker thread, black, a lighter thread, white, and of course
your
you've got your
midtones.
mediums, right? And it doesn't mean it has to be a black thread, a white thread, right?
Yeah.
But this is going to help keep the fabric from casting through to the front, to the
makes
top of the
sense.
stitches. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to set up one lucky person with a set of all three of these: one black, one white, and one gray.
Perfect.
And so what you need to do to be in the running to win these, oh, I did this last time and I had to drop the thing. Okay.
There you go.
Is
Like,
share, or
and
comment on this
Yeah.
post by Thursday at 5 p.m.
Perfect.
And one lucky person will be drawn to win 3 packs of Color Keep Topping. And for everybody else that doesn't win but still wants to save, we are going to make these 50% off.
Ooh.
They're already on sale for the end of the year sale, so we had to do better than that.
We had to make them a big sale.
It's a big sale. So these are going to be 50% off of any color, not just these 3, any color of Color Keep Topping. They come in this package, which gives you plenty because you don't need to hoop the whole piece. All you need to do is cover the area that you will be stitching on.
Perfect.
And so this will last you a long time. So again, we like, share, or comment by 5 p.m. on Thursday to be in the running to win a starter set, basically, of Color Keep, or you can come into any of our locations and get it for 50% off.
Except today is the end of the year. It's Tuesday, December 31st.
It is.
Okay, there's still 50% off.
Till when?
Till the
end of the
next New It Too.
Till the next New It Too. Okay.
Till the next New It Too.
Sorry, just
Perfect.
I've got Jan in my ear over here asking me questions. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us for another New It Too. Like I say, we'll show you kind of the finished version of that next week, so you can kind of see what it looks like to take something from that artwork to something that's digitized on the computer, all the way to something that is actually stitched out. Thanks for joining us again, and we will see you guys next week.
See you then.
Bye.